and we're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's August 24th here in Seoul. I'm Shin Yeun, and this is News Generation, where we make the news at Arirang's very own open studio. Every morning, we'll discuss the top issues and latest current affairs affecting people in their 20s and 30s. Joining me in the studio is Cheska Dainong.
Pleasure to be here.
Good morning. And Nelsong.
Good morning.
All right, now both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Now, recently, many drones set aside for educational purposes in the Korean Army have malfunctioned. Back in September, the Financial Management Corps brought in a total of 651 drones from domestic manufacturers. Around 100 of them fell from the sky as soon as they were flown up, and military officials are looking into whether these drones were manufactured and brought in directly from China. And the number of people who are deciding to retrieve their national pension fund earlier than when they're recommended to is increasing on year. Normally in Korea, it's recommended that you receive these funds at the age of 65, and if you start taking monthly pension payments a year earlier, your total pension would be 6% less than what you could have gotten. If you try to get pension payments 5 years earlier, you'd only get 70% of what you could have. And officials found the reason behind these early withdrawals is because people are either financially struggling at the moment or because they think it would be better to use these funds now. And from today, Japan will be releasing treated wastewater from its wrecked Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Leading up to this day, though, people have already canceled their plans to eat omakase at famous sushi restaurants and are choosing not to eat seafood anymore. Consumers Korea conducted a survey on 525 people. 9 out of 10 of them said they would try having less seafood from now on. 6 out of 10 said they've already reduced consumption due to safety concerns. And South Korea's Ministry of SMEs and Startups and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries are looking for ways to help seafood business owners out. So far, the Korean government has said that there's no scientific evidence or technical problem that proves that Japan's decision is dangerous. Officials didn't approve or oppose the plan, though, which experts believe has to do with the Yoon administration trying to keep Japan as a close security ally. And the IAEA also said it would regularly inform Korea about how the wastewater is being discharged from the Fukushima power plant. The UN nuclear watchdog will be stationed on site to provide real-time safety updates. Now, hearing all of this, are you still willing to eat seafood from today now?
I really love poke and
I know.
sushi. So I don't know how much intake how much I will decrease, but I also think it's something that after a while people will kind of forget about it and go back to the regular routine. So I'm not too concerned about it, but maybe I should be. I don't know. It's all very confusing.
But then again, I know how much you love poke and
I
seafood.
do. I ask her to eat every
I
single
know.
day.
I think every time we have lunch together, it's either poke or
Yes.
something with seafood.
Sushi.
Yeah. But so you're saying that it's not going to affect you at the moment right now?
At the moment.
You'll have to see how it goes. What about you, Cheska?
I think I would probably be one of the people that have been surveyed that would probably decrease my intake from now on. Only because even though there have been no scientific or technical reports
Right.
on the effect of this being released, these things usually take time for things to be, figured out or the evidence to come up to surface. And I hope the government does do something more proactive so that consumers like myself who love seafood. I mean, we talked about it. My nickname is 채식주의.
You're shark.
Okay,
You're like a shark.
She eats so much fish.
That's what my friends call
Yeah.
me. So for consumers like us, it is a big problem, especially for people who practice like pesco diet, like myself. It is a huge part of our protein source. And now there have been many reports that it is even more dangerous to eat seafood, to consume omega-3 than to just take omega-3 supplements because there are so many, pollutants and things in the fish and in the water right now.
So it's better to have these vitamins than to have actual natural food. Bad news for Cheshire, I guess. But speaking of all these different types of eating habits and what we'll be eating from now on, this actually is a good segue to our discussion topic of the day. Today we're going to be analyzing why a growing number of people from our generation are choosing not to have meat. In other words, we're going to zoom in on this new trend of increasing vegetarian populations here in Korea, even in Korea where most dishes seem to include meat. How does this happen? Take a look at the screen. If you type hard to be vegetarian in on Google, one of the countries that pops up first is South Korea. That's because meat and fish are a huge part of Korean food, ranging from the famous Korean barbecue to different types of broth. But surprisingly, we've still seen a big jump in the number of Korean vegetarians over the years. Back in 2008, we only had around 150,000 people who chose the vegetarian lifestyle. This number has jumped to 2 million as of last year. Online sales of vegan products in 2021 also saw a 20% increase. But why? Why are we seeing a growing number of people, especially millennials and Gen Z, become vegetarian here in Korea? Let's find out. First, by asking our panelists what they think about vegetarianism.
So I mentioned a little bit earlier, giving the funny nickname that my friends gave me. I kind of go between pesco and what we call flexitarian.
What's that?
So that's a flexible vegetarian. So I choose to, cater my diet more to vegetarian, but I'm not completely vegetarian.
So you're flexibly vegetarian.
Very much so. And I think mine started when I was like 19, 20, when I was in college.
Wow.
So I went on this volunteer mission camp, and there they educated us on meal preparation through animal, slaughtering and how the meat is processed. And I'm not against meat consumption because I eat it too. But the thing is, I realized how disconnected I was from the food that I was eating to how it was prepared.
Right.
So from then on, I sort of catered my diet to, okay, if I can, possibly slaughter it and prepare it, maybe I should consume it. But if I can't, maybe I should lessen it at least. And not to mention the environmental pollution that is caused by methanes, the water pollution and the land that is used to raise cattle. I also realized there's a lot of socio-economic politics that is involved with the meat industry that is changing or shaping our narratives to a very skewed version.
Right.
So that is something that I try to practice in order to kind of, I guess, align myself more properly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I don't think being vegetarian or being vegan is just an eating consumption. It's actually a lifestyle because it encompasses your values in life and how you envision where to go in life. What about you, Nal? Do you think that, what do you find about vegetarianism?
It's difficult because I love meat and I am torn inside as I am fighting between the animal rights versus the environment and my love for meat. But I have been trying to increase my vegetable intake mostly because of my health, but I do feel a lot lighter and I can't imagine what a vegan diet would do to help with my health. But I can't say that I've loved all the vegan desserts that I've tried. I'm a huge dessert fan. Yes. What?
Sorry, there's a dessert expert here that just the red flag.
Are you?
I am a huge dessert expert, and there are so many great vegan dessert cafes.
Maybe I just haven't tried the right places. I'll just go right after the show. I'll follow Cheska to a dessert place and give it a second chance. But I think it's kind of recent, the vegan restaurants and even vegan bakeries that's been coming into Korea. I think it was 5 years ago I tried my vegan bakery in Korea for the first time, and it kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth, if you can. Yeah, so I think that's my biggest concern, but I definitely think I see the value in going a little more towards flexitarian or vegetarianism. And yeah, I do think as somebody who travels a lot, it's difficult when you go, you can't necessarily pick and choose. But yeah, it's something that I'm struggling and thinking with.
Let me take you guys all on a vegan dessert cafe date.
I know.
I love it.
A list of places.
I was going to say, if you tried it out 5 years ago, much has changed since then. I think you can
true.
back me up on this.
More variety, too.
Exactly. And that's because I think our generation is leading this new type of lifestyle, whether that's being vegetarian or vegan. And would you guys agree to that statement that our generation is much more interested in this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can already tell by the market size that it's growing, and there's so many good brands that are out, restaurants that are out right now.
Dessert places that are out.
Yes. That you must go to. And also, I think for me, I have a lot of international friends that have influenced me. So we would throw like cute vegetarian parties, like go on these vegan cafe diets. So also, I was actually kind of curious to see what about the South Korean, our generation, like how do they find vegetarian diet? So let's take a look at the screen. So when asked if they actually practice the flexitarian diet that we mentioned, so flexible vegetarian, almost 30% of those surveyed responded yes.
Wow.
That's 1 out of 3 people, right?
Wow.
So as I mentioned, I was actually pleasantly surprised at the number of people that are willing, or at least trying to do vegetable diet. And I think one of the main, I guess, reasons for doing vegetarian is obviously for health, health reasons, health concerns.
Yeah.
And there are some really great documentaries that I saw that actually, you know, athletes, when they change to vegan diet, their muscle performance and their muscle growth actually increase.
Oh.
So there are some very interesting facts about the benefits of vegan diet. And also, I mean, there's so many good brands like Organica or like Vegan Cafe that we mentioned before going on the show that, you know, they taste really good.
They do.
They taste really, really good. So it's almost like I'm not losing out on anything by choosing to be a little bit flexible and just to add on the environmental
Exactly.
benefits.
I was going to ask you about that.
we-
The environmental effects seem to be really good, right?
Yes, so if I didn't know this, but apparently if you do one vegetarian diet a week, like just once a week, it's equivalent to stopping the operation of about 4.5 million cars on the road.
Wow. So
Wow.
only
5 cars.
4.5 million
cars,
cars,
yeah.
and all you need to do is just use one day of the week,
One
right?
day.
day.
One day. That's
One
not too
day.
hard.
Wow.
And we're not even talking about like chewing on leaves. We're talking about like good, good vegetarian meal.
You keep advocating that there's so many good substitutes out there. If
I
anyone
don't want
wants
to frighten people.
I know, if anyone wants to go to a good vegan or vegetarian restaurant in Korea, go with Cheska. Now, what about you, Nell? Would you agree that our generation is interested in vegetarianism?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're the generation that's seen the most drastic climate change. We also grew up with a lot of pets, so a lot of people are really interested in animal rights and, you know, animal abuse. So there's definitely a bigger movement and interest towards vegetarianism. And, you know, there's a lot of people, like Jessica mentioned, I guess a third of our nation trying to be flexitarian. And, but I feel like it's hard to be fully vegan 100% of the
I
time,
agree.
which is why a lot of people are interested in the whole flexitarian idea.
And, you know, I think it'd be a good step for you too, Nell, because I know you're
Yeah.
exercising these days. And Cheska, you mentioned the health benefits and how athletes are boosting their productivity.
Right,
So
yeah.
I will join you in the
Yeah, if it
flexitarian
tastes
journey.
good, sign me up for
Yeah.
whatever food.
So instead of our poke lunch dates, we'll try to go on really nice vegan
Oh,
and
that would be
vegetarian
actually
restaurants.
really nice. That could be our next date outing.
It could
yeah.
be. It
I love
could
it.
be. Now, we asked if our global viewers are vegetarian or if they're interested in ever becoming one. And here's what 3 of them had to share with us if you take a look at the screen. Dan said, I was a vegetarian for a while. At first, I lost 30 pounds, but I was
Wow.
hungry a lot and had to prepare food often. I still really like to eat vegan, but I mostly don't. Courtney Vegan said, I'm an 8-year vegan from Ottawa, Canada. It's so easy being vegan. I even eat Korean food like kimchi. Not supporting the torture and death of animals makes me feel good. Vegan for the win. And Mola said, I'm an Indian and vegetarianism is a way of life for many here, and I'm glad that's the case. As such, much of the cuisine is centered around it and makes good use of vegetables, pulses, grains, etc. You know, this topic really does interest me because back in college I did a lot of reports on vegetarianism because it's really hard to be one in Korea. Almost everything is brought out of meat. If you go to company get-togethers or hang out with your
That's
friends,
very
my
true,
goodness.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the easiest place you can go is Korean barbecue.
Barbecue.
Samgyeopsal places. But then, while I was reporting at the time, I could completely agree with our viewers because there's a very good diet effect to it. You eat green, you eat healthy, you lose a lot of weight. So there seems to be a lot of pros and cons. But in order for you to survive as a vegan or vegetarian, the infrastructure and the restaurants that are around you should be good. And it's difficult in
sure.
Korea, but how is it in other parts of the world?
You know, I definitely think it could be easier abroad. Like, for example, in the States, there's so many different options for special diets. There's halal, there's kosher, gluten-free, dairy-free, something. And
Lactose-free.
lactose-free. Yeah, so everybody is so used to having many different options, and that's considered normal.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, what you were saying earlier about company outings and meetings, nobody in Korea says, okay, good job on this project, guys, let's go eat some salad. You know, it's kind of difficult to move towards that. But,
Imagine.
you know, as our generation is getting older and we're the ones who will be leading the next generation, maybe it will happen. But I really think it's all about the cultural context and how much people are used to the idea.
Right. And if I may add on a personal anecdote, my friend who's been vegetarian for such a long time in Korea, when she went to a company get-together back like 6-7 years ago, she would be frowned upon for packing her own salad. But nowadays, because a lot of people from our generation are at companies, they're welcoming that and they're asking her where she makes her salads or which has the best vegan products, as you mentioned too, Cheska. So I do think we are seeing a change in social atmosphere. Now, Cheska, would you like to add on whether you think it's actually easier to survive as a vegetarian in other parts of the world?
You know, that's a very interesting question because, as you mentioned, our culture does have a meat culture. When we get together, we feel like we have to treat our guests with meat, like that's the right and proper way to do so. And personally, in my experience, I think Korea is easy to be flexitarian because we have the kimbap, the bibimbap. So when I go to like kimbap stores, I usually ask them to take out the meat portion, or you can just take it out yourself. Or we have these delicacies, the side dishes that are made from vegetables, and then pair that with rice. And also, you mentioned such a really good point. I hope our culture changes a little bit more so that people who are practicing vegan or vegetarian can be respected. Like it's their life choice that is not affecting or harming anyone.
It isn't.
So I don't want anyone to be frowned upon just because they're practicing something for the betterment of themselves.
Exactly, especially in an era where we respect diversity and so much representation, might as well be accepting this new type of lifestyle. And in order for us to do that, we actually have a vegan who's been practicing it for 12 years here in Korea. We have a live interview with him prepared for you right after this. As hard as it seems to be vegetarian in Korea, we've managed to find someone who's been vegan for 12 years here. It's Shin Won-seok, who's also a filmmaker in Seoul. Welcome, Won-seok.
Hello.
Well, hello.
Good
Thank you for having me.
All right, Won-seok, I'd like to ask you the first question.
I feel so old and ancient doing
No,
but thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here. And Won-seok, I'd like to ask you, when did you decide to become vegan and why?
So I became vegan about 12 years ago. And at that time, I came across a newspaper article, I think it was in the New York Times, where I learned that 80% of the antibiotics that produced in the United States was being used for livestock. And that was shocking to me because why? And then I learned about the reality of the factory farming. That's how the meat is cheap. And, so these animals, they get injected with antibiotics, and that's what we eat. And then I learned about the environmental impact, and then, of course, the inhumane way they are treated. So I thought, knowing all the truth, I can't just go back and pretend that, this food comes from like this ranch, where these cows are, living a happy life. That wasn't the case. So I decided to become vegan. Of course, 12 years ago, it was as impossible, but then I love challenges. So I decided to, why don't I do that? Yeah.
And Won-seok, I remember when we were doing projects together and we would go out to eat with the company or the people, you would go and find a vegan restaurant. So as we talked about here in the studio, it's very hard as Korean to, when you're going to a company get together or having like these meals, to choose like a vegan specific meals. How do you manage being vegan in South Korea working?
For 12 years, too.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Well, so fortunately, I don't work in a corporate environment, so I don't have to interact with the people every day. But it is very, for my friends who are vegan and who work at companies, they do have a hard time, especially these so-called vegetarian, these company meals. The problem in Korea is the lack of diversity. I think in terms of they don't really respect, like sometimes a boss say, hey, let's go eat some samgyeopsal, but they don't really ask anybody, oh, you guys don't like samgyeopsal? They don't really ask for anybody's opinion. So you go to these restaurants, and then most Korean restaurants don't have a vegan option. But you can also manage. I think I have some friends who will say, they will ask the restaurant, like, can you make like doenjang jjigae? But without the anchovy broth, no meat. And, a lot of the restaurants actually, they can do that for you. So you can manage it. And then, of course, more restaurants are now having vegan options. So hopefully, we're making progress. Yeah.
So I hear that you are a filmmaker, and as a vegan, you're interested in making a new film or drama about living as a vegan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So yeah, for the past few years, I've been working on a new script. It's actually started as a feature film, but then now I'm actually turning it into a TV series. It's called The Accent of Vegan, or the Korean title is 불떼기 소녀, and it's about basically four different women in their in their late 20s whose lives are turned upside down when some of them become vegan. So I'm still working on the script. Meanwhile, it is very hard to create a story about veganism when veganism is very, very still small. So I am also especially the gatekeepers, the people who make decisions about these projects. They're mostly like middle-aged men, they have no idea, So I'm actually so I started actually a YouTube channel not so long ago, dedicated to like a vegan lifestyle in Seoul. So it's like a vegan vlog, which is like taking up a lot of time for me, but I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't think today's topic is constrained to age per se. You mentioned in the very beginning that you feel old to be on our show, which targets millennials and Gen Z. But I think regardless of which generation you're from, this is a very critical issue because it impacts what we'll be seeing in the future. And in that sense, would you like to encourage more young people to become vegan? If so, give us one tip on how we could start.
Oh, wow. So, well, I definitely see progress because 12 years ago, there was like nothing, nobody I consider a vegan friend, but now I have quite a few friends, who are vegan, and they're mostly like young, like Gen Zs or millennials. So definitely I see the progress. And then, we have to also realize that we are living in the era of a climate crisis. And animal agriculture is responsible for 14% of the carbon emissions, at least.
Yeah.
So if we can, I know you guys talked about this earlier, and if we can reduce meat consumption, that's going to help a lot, because this is our reality. So for young people, if you want to live in a beautiful planet as it is, I think that we should, maybe do something more, like there are ways to fight climate crisis, and one of them is maybe trying to live like a plant-based lifestyle. So, but how do you begin? That's always hard, but you have to also seek out the likely-minded people.
Yeah.
It's always a lot of times I meet these new vegan friends, and they're always complaining about not having vegan friends. Yes, of course, you're the only vegan, in your circle of friends, but then you have to reach out to, maybe you find them on social media, maybe you find some meetups. Go out there. There's some chat rooms on different messenger platforms. You join them and then learn about how other people do it, and then it'll be easier, And then of course you find out about some new vegan cafes and
exactly. You need that network of friends in order for you to start.
Yeah, there are lots of great vegan desserts in Seoul right now. So I think
okay, got it.
We'll take your word for that. Thank you so much, Won Seok. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, now, so will you be willing to become vegetarian?
You guys have actually, I'm not even kidding, convinced me a little bit, because I love good food, and from everything that I've heard today, there's some good ones out there. So I'll try it, and I really want what's better for the planet as well. So here's to, trying at least.
And you know who will help you? It'd be our Flexitarian Cheska.
And yet, if I may give just one really quick, easy tip, just eat something delicious. That's it.
Eat something delicious.
Eat delicious vegan food. Lower the hurdle. That's it. Yeah.
All right. And please do take us, because you're the friend here, as Won Seok mentioned, who will sort of promote vegetarianism in our daily lives now.
I will be the one to influence all of you.
Exactly. And we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Cheska Dainha.
Pleasure's always mine.
And Elsong.
No problem.
All right. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are New Generation.